AITA for never wanting to see or talk to my dad ever again after he's kicked me out of the house to appease his wife. I'm sorry for making this way too long, but I had to give enough context for you to understand how bad it was, and there's way more. After my parents divorced my sister and I went and stayed with our mom in her parents' house for about 3 years, and my dad got married. When we eventually moved back in with him and his new wife, my dad, who's always been so caring and warm with us, has become cold and distant and would throw tantrums if his wife even suspected any wrong done towards her, and we hadn't done anything. We tried to keep to ourselves as much as possible. You can skip this paragraph if you wish. So, we spent years in a living hell with this possessive woman who would never under any condition let us sit in private with our dad, and kept filling his head with all sorts of BS that he was looking at us in despise even on regular days when nothing's happened, other than a lot of crazy stuff like hiding food, talking shit about our mom, and plainly painting us in the worst light to anyone who would listen, be it family or strangers, which I promise you was all either a complete lie or exaggerations, and I got yelled at and scolded by my dad whenever I told him about what she was doing, and somehow a situation where I'm the clear victim turns to me being the villain of it all. That's when I realized he was a lost cause and I'll just have to tough it out until I move to a place of my own. The important thing is she's been working ever since we moved in to drive us out, and she managed to do so with my sister some years ago, and then a while ago she got what she wished with me with my dad's 100% approval, and I later discover she gave him an ultimatum of, it's either me or your son in this house. Not to mention my complete first mental breakdown on the day I left home and the antidepressants that I was prescribed in the last couple of years I was in that house for my terrible mood and insomnia. Now he's implying that he's disowned me and never wants to see me again, because I don't respect his wife. And now that I'm back with my mom and it's been a while since that whole mess, people are telling me to make it up with him, if not now then later, because he's still my father and he loves me more than anything and would definitely forgive me. I don't know how he would forgive me when I'm the one who was kicked out simply because of his wife, and still everyone keeps hitting me with the, no father would ever hate his children, and remember, you wouldn't be here if it weren't for him, and it isn't his fault he had to do it because of his wife. Nowadays my head is clearer and I feel better and happier away from that hellhole, but the mere mention of my supposed dad or his wife is the only thing that dampens my mood, and I vowed I would never see or talk to him and wouldn't bother with this sick old man even if I saw him on the streets. Am I an a-hole here? Because everyone around me sure is making me feel that way, and that it's my responsibility as the good eldest son to show him unconditional love when he hasn't shown me any. Update: I totally understand if you'd be skeptical about any of this. TBH, I'm surprised nobody called me a liar yet. My story might sound ridiculous and implausible and very much one-sided, like I'm painting myself as a saint who does no wrong and that woman and my dad are literal satans. I'm a very self-aware person and have myself struggled to believe any of this, even with me being the one actually living with it, but those 8 years I've lived with these people really warped my views about everything. And my sister leaving the house a few years ago made things worse because I was left on my own with nobody with me to talk to or support me, which allowed them to gang up on me on every occasion, and the loneliness I felt was very soul-crushing at times, and it did affect my grades in college, after I was of the top 1% of over 10,000 students where I live. I've always found it rational to believe there's no such thing as purely good or evil in this world. Life isn't that black and white like in fiction. But my experience has shown me there indeed is exceptions to that. Some people are just inexplicably vile and evil. I tried in the last couple of months I was there building a relationship with my stepmom, thinking again that maybe it's me who's the problem, but it was all pointless after all. She clearly saw me and my sister as the enemy ever since she got to meet our father and decided to claim him for herself. I've replied to some people on the forum adding a few extra stories, and like I said to someone, there's way more I could have added, that I could write 5 more posts of the same length and still would have more to say, but I feel like I've already overshared and troubled you people with my messed up personal life, and I hope the picture is already pretty clear without me adding more to it. Thank you everyone for your kind words and support, and believe that I read and will continue to read everything you're saying, and I appreciate it all. I'm relatively new to sharing my personal experiences on the internet, and I'm glad this subreddit exists since my post wasn't allowed on r/Amethyst hole because it was a banned topic. It's really been an escape and helpful these past couple of months, even though admittedly, like we all know, the internet is also full of many insensitive jerks who just enjoy bringing down strangers for no reason, and if you'd known me IRL you'd think this is very out of character because I was normally a bit of a quiet, closed-off person. Much love to all. Update 2. Thanks to everyone who's been so kind and given me their advice, and you'd better believe I'm keeping it in mind. After my first post and upon reflecting on that whole terrible ordeal, even if I want to forget about it as soon as I can and go on with my life, I've come to some conclusions that might be concerning. I remembered that I happened to hear Dad calling his wife Mommy on many occasions when he didn't think anyone was listening, and my dad is a man in his mid-50s and is a very strict religious conservative kinda guy, and it's only happened after my grandma's death. At first I thought he was saying it to their little children like one would refer to his wife as Mommy when talking to his children, and that's normal, but the children weren't even present in those instances, just him and her. And I remembered how my dad really loved his mom and was very attached to her even as a guy in his 50s, and broke down completely when she died a few years ago, and it was the most distraught I've seen him since he and my mom divorced. And besides the mommy thing, he has become ridiculously obedient to his wife, even more so than before my grandma died, and whenever she has a fight with anybody, be it me, my sister, or even my dad's family, and no matter how clearly in the wrong she was, he would be unapologetically 100% on her side and would gladly cut them all off for her. We were all concerned about it, especially since he's always been a hard-headed guy who wouldn't let anyone tell him what to do, and I was the only one to hear him calling her Mommy, being the only one living with them, but never told anyone about it. TBH, I'm conflicted about it. Maybe he has some kind of mommy/attachment issues? But I'm almost certain he's not well, and that his wife might be knowingly using his poor mental state and manipulating and turning him on all of his family. So when she gave him that ultimatum, it's either me or your son in this house, I think for him, seeing her leave him was like reliving the death of his mom all over again, since he seems to have replaced my grandma with her. Edit, I'm almost certain of this because I've caught her being very condescending and demanding to him like he was a kid and he's 10 years older than her. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him for choosing her over his own children, but looking at it this way, I don't know if I should hate or pity him. Am I overanalyzing this, or do I have some cause for my way of thinking? Edit, extra backstory if you'd care for it. I know I can't shut up lol, but I have a lot to say. His wife is someone who had given up on marriage just before she met him, not to be mean and not going by my own opinion but by everyone's who know her, but she's pretty ugly and very clearly insecure about it. And besides everything, I can tell you my dad is way out of her league, but he was absolutely distraught and broken after he and my mom got divorced, to the point he lost like 20 pounds in the course of a week and kept going on about how close to he was and that mom was his first and only true love, and he sent my mom a text right before he got married explaining that it was either marrying this new woman or ending it all for him. Edit, even though the divorce was almost entirely his fault as he kept cheating on her. So it was to this woman's advantage that he was very vulnerable and she was the rebound basically, and they got married just 2 months after the divorce, otherwise he'd never have given her a second thought. I try not to mention her ugly looks because honestly who cares as long as you're a good person on the inside? But turns out she's just as ugly on the inside and this insecure with herself to the point she'd be displaying jealousy of my sister who's 20 plus younger than her.